Picture this. You have a long commute to work and just want to listen to a good podcast, but there are too many choices. Anime, film, comic books, science. What will you do? Well, never fear. We are here with all of your podcast needs. Welcome, all freaks and geeks. We are the Square Roundtable Podcast, a collective of Black nerds discussing all things anime, comics, science, and pop culture related. Please join us for our weekly podcast every Friday on squareroundtablepod.fandomlim.com, YouTube, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Be there and be square.
Hello, everyone. Screenplay Archaeology host KiramidHead here. Before we get into today's episode, I just want to get some intro stuff out of the way. First things first, we are now part of the Fandom Lim Media Podcast Network, so I'm going to link their site down below. And that's why you would have just heard a promo for another podcast, because they're another one of the shows on the network. And as per usual, if you like the show and you'd like to know more, you can check out our social media pages on Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, and even Instagram now. The show also has a Patreon if you're willing to gift money, but you don't really need to if you don't want to. And we also have a Discord server, which you can join if you want to chat with, the group members there. So that link is going to be down below as well. So yeah, sit back, guys, and enjoy the show. All right, everyone. Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Screenplay Archaeology Podcast. I'm your host, KiramidHead.
And I'm your special guest, long-awaited return of WhiskeyBrewer.
Shouting in my ears.
Sorry about that.
Yes.
I am shouting across an ocean,
Yes, and so we're continuing on with Planet of the Apes, where I left off with Cthulhu Jack last episode, talking about the Adam Rifkin drafts, and then a little bit about, the still uninformed. We're still relatively uninformed on the Peter Jackson version, so we talked about that a little bit there. And so we're going to pick up with what's probably the craziest version of this to exist, which is
version, also the first version, if I read the history right.
Well, there was the Adam Rifkin version in the late 80s, which was supposed to be like a Halloween 2018 kind of thing, where it was like we're ignoring everything but the first movie.
Oh yeah, one of those.
But that fell apart because of executive changeover.
Good old classic Hollywood.
And there's the Peter Jackson thing went along, which also fell apart for those reasons. And this sort of came around in 1993. And this is produced with a story pitch from Oliver Stone. Yes, that Oliver Stone, who at the time was working on Natural Born Killers, and a script written by Terry Hayes, who wrote, among other things, Mad Max 2, Mad Max 3, and Dead Calm.
3 really good films.
I
do actually enjoy Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Yeah, I do too. It's
the underrated one. But,
it's maybe the least of the 4, but it's good.
No, that's true.
Besides, we don't need another hero from that. So,
chef's kiss of a Hollywood song for the end credits.
And you get all the crazy quotes. You get the dwarf from Todd Browning's Freaks is in it. Well, let's not talk about that. So this is a reboot of Planet of the Apes called Return of the Apes. So just going by the title, you never know what the fuck this is supposed to be.
No.
And before we go into background, the basic synopsis of this is how to say this without stumbling over my own words and just going, what? It's taking place, I guess it's meant to be the 90s or
it would have been set present day at the time, say, the script was being written or the story was pitched.
Because I wasn't sure at first if it was not meant to be near future or something like that. But what it is that basically Earth has fallen victim to this plague where human babies are born old and dead. And so humanity's gonna be dead within a year or something like that.
Yeah, between 6 months and a year, based on the gradual progression of births and whatnot and sciencey stuff.
And you have a rogue university lab assistant who you find out is a disgraced professor who theorizes that it's a thing in our mitochondrial DNA that's been there for thousands upon thousands of years. And he has this theory of time travel that involves a chemical key to travel down your genetic code. And so he goes back in time and finds that early man is in conflict with this civilization of sapient apes who are trying to wipe us out. And it just kind of goes from there.
Neanderthals and early tribes, and pretty much it's the classic Oliver Stone cocaine haze.
From the days of his Conan script, only this is actually somewhat coherent and sensible compared to, something Stone would have written by himself.
Actually, there's a clear through line in this story. That's one of the crazy things about this script.
Now, I've kind of spent 2 episodes going into my sort of thoughts on the Planet of the Apes movies, and I went into lots of detail about the original series in the intro, the primer episode, as I called it.
Yeah.
So I can let you go briefly on them.
Well, again, with I remember watching the originals when I was a little kid, and of course they were always being repeated on. In the UK, it's BBC and BBC Two and all that. Late night, they were showing them, I remember vaguely doing a sleepover with friends and seeing the ending of the second one. It's just how the hell are we supposed to go to sleep after that?
Yeah, both 2 and 3 have those endings where you're watching them at 9 years old. It's did they fucking do that?
Yeah. It's oh my God, no way. How the hell did they make another one after this? And it's just, but you watch it and you think the makeup and just the design, especially for the apes, and how you could tell it was just for a kid. As a kid, it blows your mind, and it blew my mind definitely.
Yeah,
the fact they could do that for the time, and then the series does sort of gradually goes sort of downhill as it goes along, but there's still a great almost complete story. And especially when you consider the last one of the original 5, there's still that ambiguity there on whether it's a complete circle, it's going to go back to the first one, or could it go off in its own another direction? And it's you can go back to it, and it really makes you think about a lot of stuff. It's just a great series.
Yeah, it leaves you thinking: is it going to be Terminator 1 or Terminator 2?
Yes, exactly. There you go. That's great.
They're all very well, aside from some of the clunky retconning that happens here and there out of sheer necessity at times.
Sheer necessity. Oh crap! We've blown up the planet. What do we do now?
Oh crap! Charlton Heston doesn't want to be in the movie. Let's write another character in.
We killed off all the apes. What do we do? And holy crap, we've made this ending too violent. Let's scale it back a tiny bit.
Yeah.
And holy crap, we've run out of money. What do we do now for the 5th one?
Oh crap, let's make a TV show.
Oh crap, let's make a TV show. Oh crap,
let's make a cartoon.
Let's make a cartoon. Yes. And oh crap, nobody's watching. Now we'll put it in hibernation for 15 years.
Yeah, and when I revisited them around the time when the last reboot movie was coming out, it really showed how they're much better movies than you would think they are.
No, exactly. For the most part, they do hold up so well. It's just it's those films that are pretty well. The first one definitely very damn quotable.
I think
even with just a couple of lines, but you say those couple of lines, everybody knows what the hell you're talking about.
Everybody has to put them in their reboot scripts.
Yeah, everybody has to do it, and
we ended up getting the crappiest version of it in the Tim Burton movie.
Oh God, yeah. Oh, we're going to subvert that line. It's oh no, yeah.
Michael Clark. Michael Clark Duncan's trying, but he can't fix this.
He can't fix this.
Yeah, I guess we should talk about that movie briefly.
Again, you could tell what Burton was trying to do with his reboot, and again, the world building and how they did the ape culture
and the makeup effects. Well, except for the women apes, those were weird looking.
Oh yeah, we got to make them look sexy.
Yeah, the thing I'll say about that movie is the actors playing the apes are all giving like 110%.
They're giving their all.
The actors playing the humans, like you have Mark Wahlberg going he's about halfway to happening mode in that.
Yeah.
You have the blonde, you have the non-acting blonde, and then you have
Elizabeth Warren, who was a model. This was her first Hollywood film.
Who is constantly thirsting after Marky Mark, and he just doesn't give a shit about her for the entire movie.
And I think she was dating Bruce Willis at the time.
Oh.
Yes.
And because they wanted to have like a love interest thing between Mark Wahlberg and Helena Bonham Carter's character, which is still in the movie. I mean, all the groundwork for that is still there.
Yeah.
Like they totally have like the relationship chemistry, but Fox was like, no, don't go there.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not allowing that. We've got this blonde model we want to shoehorn into the script.
And you got Chris Christopherson, who just seems like he showed up while waiting for his cue to make Blade 2 and is like, why the fuck am I in this movie?
It's just Chris Christopherson being, essentially he's being Whistler. It's like, crap, I got no gadgets. What do I do?
I forgot he was in that movie. I'm watching it. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here?
You do forget who's in the film, because I'm trying to. Oh, yeah, Paul Giamatti being Paul Giamatti.
Oh, he's great.
He was perfect for that, actually. Yeah.
Early Paul Giamatti before his Oscar nomination, I think.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it is. It's this is the guy. This is the guy we want in every indie film after this.
Yeah, and he would also be in a lesser Shyamalan movie.
Oh God. Oh yeah, he wasn't he?
Yeah, Lady in the Water.
He was. Yeah. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
You got
about that movie.
You've got like Tim Roth growling and like leaping around.
Oh yeah, Tim Roth was having a ball on that film.
You've got Charlton Heston doing a cameo, which of course involves a gun.
And Tim Roth's like, yeah, Charlton Heston gets to play my dad. There you go.
Well, he didn't like working with Heston.
No, he didn't. Oh no, because Roth's very was anti-gun or anti-NRA, and he's got NRA, Mr. Pry It From My Cold Dead Hands.
Yeah,
which technically Roth did in the film.
Yes, he does.
So yeah,
it's funny because he's like take the tabernacle, open it, and then Roth just goes boom, smashes it.
Yeah,
and
subtlety, not a strong point.
And it's just a movie where you watch it, and it's like here's warmed over ideas from the other movies. And all this, like, oh, we got to go out into the Forbidden Zone, but instead of the Statue of Liberty, it's wreckage that kind of looks a little like the Statue of Liberty.
That's true. Yeah, it looks more like the Statue of Liberty's fallen on its side more, so it's like the top of the crown. Yeah, that's right.
And it's like, and I remember that set looking way more impressive when I was 9.
Yeah, it looked way more impressive on the big screen, and now you see it on TV, and it's like, oh.
And then you get the admittedly decent twist where it turns out that they created the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, thank you, Marky Mark, for
the machinery that's still working somehow, despite being in the desert.
How the hell is it's like 1.5 engines has fuel after thousands upon thousands of years?
Well, he's like, our engines will still have fuel. I'm trying to wonder why the fuck the computer screens are still working.
Yeah. Oh Christ. Yeah.
Like the keyboards aren't missing keys or anything.
No, and somehow the bulbs are still working underneath.
Yeah, and then you get like the climactic battle, which is like, man, this is no Lord of the Rings, is it?
No,
it's not. It's not even Mummy Returns final battle.
It's barely Tomb of the Dragon Emperor final battle.
Oh Jesus! It's not. You got like the chimps in those goofy hats like running on all fours, going ooh ooh ooh.
Yeah, we've hired Cirque du Soleil. Let them run.
And then you just get that ending where it's like it's basically the ending from the original novel, but without any of the foreshadowing to make it make even a slight amount of sense.
Nope. Unless you love theory videos on YouTube.
And
also, go back to the final battle. You can't forget one thing of Tim Roth, pimp slapping a chimp.
Yes, he slaps it's the chimp that Mark Wahlberg chases into the anomaly at the beginning of the movie, finally shows up, and he's attacked, and so Tim Roth's attacking Mark Wahlberg, and then the chimp tries to save him, and Tim Roth just BAM! Smacks him so hard it runs and hides.
Yeah. Oh, no, it crawls.
Yeah.
It hits the wall and just crawls away into its cage going, oh, no. I made a mistake.
Geez, it's such a... I mean, there's parts of that movie that are funny, bad, but a lot of it is just cringy bad.
Yeah. And again, especially like at the end and find out where they're burying the apes, they're burying the humans. And Michael Clark Dunn, he's trying to bring dignity to it. It's like, we shall leave their graves unmarked. That's way no one will know who that, it's like, well, what if one of them wanted to like pay their respects to their dad? It's like, you might be paying respects to a chimp, instead.
Oh, dear God.
That whole gravitas, and it's like,
I forgot about that until you mentioned it.
I think it's one of Clark Duncan's last like little appearances in the film.
I think it's his last.
It probably is actually, yeah. And it's like, yeah, we'll give him this bit. This will bring dignity to the film. It's schmaltzy. You expect like the more swelling of the strings. I don't think there's even that much music in that bit. It's just like his little speech, and then there you go. Oh, Marky Mark's going to go back into the ship and reform the Funky Bunch.
And then you get that silly ending.
That silly ending, yeah.
I mean, it's one of those movies. I hope Fox didn't spend a whole lot of money on that. I mean, it's probably one of those things like Superman Returns, where even though it doesn't look that expensive, it got all the other movies folded into it. Yeah, the good old Hollywood accounting.
Oh yeah, and where they spent double the budget on advertising as well.
Yeah.
Oh, Hollywood.
That movie was advertised a lot too.
Oh yeah, it was like meant to be one of the big summer tentpole movies, I think, of that year.
Nope.
Nope.
And it bombed so badly, it went into hibernation for a full decade.
Yeah. We'll never get a resolution to that cliffhanger.
Unless Disney decides to go multiverse.
Oh my God, yeah. Andy Serkis, Tim Roth.
Planet of the Apes, No Way Home.
No way. Everyone who remembers Caesar.
So they're going to do a CGI Ricardo Montalban.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
have we got any spare voice recordings of Roddy McDowall? There we go, we'll put that in.
But no, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on those movies because they're not totally relevant to the subject, but I will say they are good movies.
Yeah, very good movies, yeah. The originals definitely deservedly can be called classics.
Yeah, and they're just a really good example of rebooting a franchise and then sticking the landing with the third movie.
Yeah.
Although they're gonna make a fourth, apparently.
Really?
Yeah, just not with Matt Reeves directing because he's too busy with Batman.
Ah, yeah. Well, understandable in that regard. I think where they do the story.
I would like them to do like a massive time jump and take the apes closer to something like what we see in the original movie.
Yeah, no, that would be interesting. And maybe if they did that, they could do the technological advances from the original book.
Yep, and multiple scripts.
Yeah, yeah. Here we go. And a producer who snorts an awful lot of cocaine.
Well, so to get into this script, I'm going to pull up my book here. I'm going to read a little bit.
Text.
What?
We're just chatting the sacred texts.
Oh, the sacred scrolls of the lawgiver. Okay, so basically it went through the Rifkin version, the Peter Jackson version, and said it was to be several years before Fox resurrected the idea of remaking Planet of the Apes, this time when Don Murphy and Jane Hampshire, who produced Oliver Stone's Natural Born Killers, became involved. Says Murphy, I called Fox executive Peter Rice, who was and is a good friend of mine, and said, I have to do this, what do I gotta do? And he said, you gotta find a director. Why don't you find somebody interesting like Sam Raimi? I said, well, that's interesting, but I don't know how to get Sam Raimi, and I'm not sure he's the right guy anyway. I actually think he'd do a good job.
I think he could do, actually. It'd be quirky based on that period of Sam Raimi.
Yeah, this is Dark Man Raimi.
That's what, yeah, exactly. So it'd be Liam Neeson as Caesar.
Take the fucking elephant. And he said, well, fuck, why don't you walk down the hall and ask Oliver? So I walked down the hall and asked Oliver, and he didn't say no. He didn't exactly say yes either. According to the accountant Jane Hampshire's book Killer Instinct, I'm not going to read, that's a long title, I'm not going to read the whole thing. Stone may not, it's basically them, it sounds like it's them patting themselves on the back for producing natural born killers.
All right.
Stone may not have known what he got himself into. I imagine the conversation going something like this, Hampshire wrote. So, Oliver, Planet of the Apes, says Don. What about it, says Oliver. Do you like it, says Don. Sure, says Oliver. So, if I could get us involved, you'd like that, huh? Says Don. Sure, Don, whatever, says Oliver. According to Hampshire, Rice responded by saying that he would only be interested if Stone would direct. What we don't want is an expensive executive producer. Murphy said leave it to him.
Wow.
Okay, so keep going. Before long, a top-heavy meeting was arranged at the offices of Stone's production company, Ixtlan. Looks like an Aztec word, with everyone present from Fox President of Production Tom Jacobson and going down through the ranks of vice presidents all the way to Rice, on whose shoulders the whole experience, not to mention his future career, was resting. What Stone said first caught everyone by surprise. I watched the original movies again a couple of nights ago, and they were awful, he told the stunned boardroom. I'm only here because of Don Murphy. You should talk to him. As Hampshire recalled, what followed was the most dreadful silence I've ever heard in a room. Oliver had clearly gotten wind of all of Don's shenanigans in the process and was now hanging him out to dry. Wow, Oliver Stone's a dick.
Oh my God, that is beautiful.
And Murphy apparently did his best to encourage the executives on the basis of marketing potential, merchandising, tie-ins, and McDonald's Happy Meals and the like, but it was abundantly clear that there was no idea, no pitch, to back up the generalizations and jargon. The collective embarrassment level in the room was quantumly higher than anything I've ever registered before in my life, Hampshire went on, when suddenly Oliver seemed to tune into something.
What was that, the cocaine hiding in the corner?
And Stone, who had mixed politics and science fiction in the television series Wild Palms and written an unproduced adaptation of Alfred Besser's sci-fi novel The Demolished Man, which that's an episode I might have to do down the line because I have 3 scripts of that.
Oh, nice.
Including one by De Palma.
Oh, now I'd have to read that script.
And apparently become intrigued by the prospect of time being circular, not linear, with no difference between the past and the future. So he clearly was paying attention to the movies.
Yeah.
And so this is the shit comes in. What if there were discovered cryogenically frozen Vedic apes who held the secret numeric codes to the Bible that foretold the end of the civilization, he wondered. His interpretation of Planet of the Apes would, as he later told Empire, be a sci-fi movie that deals with the past versus the future. My concept is that there's a code inscribed in the Bible that predicts all historical events. The apes were there at the beginning and figured it all out. Nevertheless, he added evasively, I don't want to say too much except that the stars will be hairy. Is he saying the apes are aliens?
I think he is, and that quote I have read before about like the whole thing in the Bible and all that, and that idea in itself is a madman's dream.
I would say he's been watching too much History Channel, but I don't think History Channel existed yet.
No, ancient aliens guy with random hair. Aliens, bro.
The guy who's in the special features of the Stargate DVD.
But he is as well, yeah.
That's where I first saw him. He didn't have the hair yet back then.
No, I didn't even probably didn't recognize him without the hair. Again, that as a concept in itself, like secrets in the Bible, is
like some of the echoes of that are in the script.
Yes, definitely.
Faint echoes.
You could see what of Stone's mad, Stone and their mad original idea. How Hayes is able to take cohesive parts of that and turn it into this script.
And so, according to Hampshire, Fox thought almost as much of Stone's ideas as Stone himself did. Thus, wrote Hampshire, Oliver Stone got Fox to take exactly what they didn't want on the project, an expensive executive producer. They called the next day and offered him $1 million to do just that. When the project was announced in Variety in late 1993, Hampshire sounded more confident than she felt about Stone's approach. Oliver's notion is kind of in the Joseph Campbell mytho-sick vein. I'm reading the stuff in brackets for no reason. She was quoted as saying, it's about what a separate parallel planet might be. He's reinvented the story with a contemporary scientist going back in time to this simian universe. Although news that Oliver Stone might direct a new Planet of the Apes spread like wildfire, Murphy says that was never the intention. He may have led Fox to believe that so we could do the deal, but no. And that he only ever intended to executive produce the film. Nevertheless, Hampshire asserts that Stone was enthusiastic about the project. Murphy agrees. I think Oliver saw that there was a very exciting story to be told, and a very exciting concept in a very exciting world. Soon the director was working closely with British-born screenwriter Terry Hayes, who had scripted 2 Mad Max sequels and Dead Calm. And so what ended up happening is that they worked on the script we're about to talk about. They got Schwarzenegger signed on to star.
Yeah, they got him in.
Of all
while
people.
The script was being written.
And they bring in Dead Calm director Philip Noyce, who was an A-lister at the time because he had just done Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger.
Oh, yeah, that was around that time.
Both
when those films are made.
Both very good, if not quite on the level of Hunt for Red October.
No. It's like saying Harrison Ford's no Alec Baldwin.
Well, he hasn't shot anybody yet. He's just almost killed people with his plane.
Oh, no.
Fly, yes. Land, no.
Oh, my God.
I might have to clip that and turn it into a separate video.
It might be a good idea.
28 minutes in? I'll have to remember where that is in the recording. But okay, so yeah, they all get involved, and it seems like Fox really likes this idea. So let's jump into the script and see what the script actually is. Because it's not exactly that pitch, and I can only imagine that this was Terry Hayes trying to make some sort of coherent through line from whatever the fuck Oliver Stone was on about.
Yeah. He was probably scrabbling through like the notes or whatever, going, all right, Bible, DNA, past, future, crap.
And the thing is that we say cocaine. That's not a joke. Oliver Stone was a massive cokehead in the 70s. He got clean while writing Scarface of all things. But
I don't know how that probably thought it was an autobiographical and thought, oh God, I've done too much.
Yeah, and he wrote like the first draft of Conan the Barbarian, which is just incoherent, like copy paste of different scenes from Robert E. Howard stories and just weird scene. There's literally multiple scenes of characters talking about taking drugs, and they're not even like characters in the story. They're just random people in scenes.
Yeah, you wonder if his version of Conan was more of like a treatment rather than an actual script.
Except it is a script.
Yeah, I know.
It's a very long script.
180 pages or something?
Yeah, 140, I think.
Hey, I overestimated with Mr. Stone there.
Okay, so what we have here, it's called, like I said, it's called Return of the Apes. And it's a first draft. And, okay, Return of the Apes, I mean, that's an ambiguous title. It could be like a team-up movie of like fucking Bonzo, the orangutan from Every Which Way But Loose, fucking Most Valuable Primate.
Oh my God. Yeah, Ben, you do wonder why they went with Return of the Apes, especially as it's meant, we're rebooting. It's not, they didn't plan it as a sequel. Why call it Return of the Apes if only for the marketing potential? Or was it just a provisional title and they came up with something better?
And it's not even, the apes aren't even returning. They stay in the same place.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, and the Rifkin version was called various things, but one of the titles was Return to the Planet of the Apes. But nobody actually leaves the planet and comes back. It's like Batman Returns, where Batman didn't fucking go anywhere.
No.
But okay, so it's Return of the Apes, and so it opens in space, zooming in on Earth, and we go to a village in South America where a native woman is giving birth, and we don't see the baby, but the doctor is like horribly shocked and hides it immediately, only telling the mother that her child has died.
No, he gives the baby to the priest who's there.
Oh, that's right.
Priest is there praying and like the new birth and all that, and he sees the look on the doctor's face, and the doctor hands the priest the baby, going, "Baby is dead. It's your turn," or something like that, and the doctor just leaves after we followed like his jeep or whatever going up the mountain trail for what probably would have been the opening credits.
Yeah,
to get through this cut at the top of a mountain.
It's fucking Pueblo, which is not South America. That's the American Southwest.
Yeah.
And so we go to New York, where a helicopter takes off from a hospital and flies to Harvard's biology department, where another dead infant with the physical appearance of an 80-year-old is autopsied. And we then go to Will Robinson. Yes, that's the character's name, kind of.
Danger.
Oliver
Stone is making a movie.
It's deliberately a reference in the context of the story, too.
Yeah.
It's a fucking terrible pun when they explain it.
They've got to do it somehow, haven't they?
Yeah, he's a lab assistant in his 40s who looks rough and is disposing of hospital waste in a furnace. And there's multiple scenes in the first act where they're like, oh, his rippling muscles. So this is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, this is them selling Arnie as the hero of the movie.
You know, this is a sequel to Junior.
Here he comes to save the day.
He then feeds some lab animals and watches on a closed-circuit TV. I don't know why this is going over, like, all the internal TVs in the place. But Professor Billy Ray Diamond, one of the scientists from the autopsy, gives a briefing on the situation. Yes, that's really her name.
Yeah, somebody who's into country music.
Yeah, she's fucking Billy Ray Cyrus playing this role.
Thank God there wasn't a kid named Miley.
Oh, God. No, we don't need her teaching apes how to twerk.
This is how you disguise yourself with a wig.
For reasons unknown, 42 cases have occurred where human infants go through the entire life cycle in the womb, aging and dying before birth. So this is where they got that idea from in the Exorcist prequels.
Yeah.
Will goes to watch her in person and take notes before heading for a self-storage unit he owns and digging out old files, including a tape recording of himself winning some sort of award. 3 weeks.
It specifies in the script, it's like, it's a much younger Will, happy with life, and, you know, it's like, well, thank you. It's like him getting, his Oscar speech or something, the way it almost describes it in the script.
Yeah, he's going to get his Oscar for Last Action Hero.
Well deserved.
Yeah, and so it's like 3 weeks pass, and Diamond reports to the president that 5,000 cases have now cropped up, and that this continues to spread. There will be no more live human births in just over 6 months.
6 months and 20-something days. They go for, actually, I think it's a specific number almost they give in the script.
Yeah, and I guess they're just that good at the math.
Yeah, it's like the numbers are exponentially rolling every couple of weeks and all that. So that's how they worked. And of course, you've got the classic sullen-faced people around the table. I assume in the White House, or is it the CDC?
They're at the White House. I think they're in the Oval Office.
They are in there. So yeah, so everyone's sat around. And then of course you get like the president's like, the classic movie human president, the man of the people sort of thing. And he's got his press secretary who only has a couple of lines and is written as a complete bitch.
Oh, yeah.
And of course the president, can't we be human for a minute? Nudge, nudge.
Yeah, we're not apes in here.
We're not apes in here. We're not animals.
Okay, so at Will's apartment, he's going through his old files and floppy disks, so definitely the 90s.
Definitely 90s. And it's not just any apartment, it's a really crappy apartment.
It's like a little closet.
Yeah, a little closet with a cat in its own little closet within the closet.
Yeah, he's trying to figure something out, and he gets a breakthrough. He looks over at his cat, which has just given birth to kittens.
Yeah.
And from there we go to... Yeah. He's like, Eureka.
I'm not going to attempt any Arnie accents.
Yeah, not
Remember
after
how
Commando.
badly that turned out during Commando 2.
Yep. And so we then go to Diamond's townhouse, where for some reason we get introduced to her naked in the shower.
Yeah, not needed, but I suppose if they're trying to make it, look, it's our sexy 30-year-old scientist. Here we go.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, she gets interrupted by Will ringing the doorbell. He tells her he works at the department, and she lets him in when she recognizes him. And he tells her that the team is on the wrong track. This condition only affects women of childbearing age, and viruses don't discriminate. And Will instead proposes that something is embedded in our mitochondrial DNA, which would make the whole situation worse.
And that's right. It's like, because before that, it's talking about like, oh, we've got people looking at all different tracks, and he's like, everyone's wrong. Look at this.
Yes, the friggin' 40-year-old lab assistant figured it out.
Who probably looks like he needs a shave, even with all his rippling muscles.
Now, okay, what would be a worse thing to happen to Will Robinson? This movie or the Lost in Space movie?
Ooh,
where adult Will Robinson is played by Jared Harris, of all people.
Yeah, with the really bad CGI Gary Oldman spider. Which actually isn't the worst CGI in that movie.
A master race of spiders.
I am a god.
I kind of want to watch that now.
I've got it on DVD. I might put it on in a bit.
Matt LeBlanc being the action hero.
Oh my god! Oh, serious Matt LeBlanc hitting on Heather Graham.
By pointing out constellations.
Point out constellations and say, "Oh, is it?" And literally after he finds out his boss's daughter, going, "Oh, do you want to share the cryo tube?" Jesus Christ!
Okay, so and Will intuits somehow that Diamond is pregnant, and then he just leaves after that.
It's like how far along? 9 weeks or something.
It's very early.
Very early, but he just somehow looks at her and is like, "How long?" He's like, "Oh Christ, man!"
Yeah. He can smell a MILF. And so NASA trucks show up with a bunch of equipment at the university, and Diamond discusses the mDNA theory with some scientists. And there's an older one who's called, this is the second really of many strange references, De Maupassant.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out that reference, but
It's a French writer named Guy de Maupassant who wrote, there's a story called The Necklace, which is something that I had to read in school because it had to teach us about irony. There's one he wrote called The Horla about an invisible monster. I think
which does fit with the whole DNA thing.
Did he write Owl Creek Bridge? I can't remember.
No idea, to be honest with you. I may be British, but I am not that classically trained.
But it's a strange reference. He mentions, there was an idea that was bandied about in the 70s, young woman. If you could unlock mDNA, you could use it as a ladder of sorts, travel into the past. Oh,
and he mentions Berkeley as well.
Yeah, which is important later.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah, foreshadowing that takes a very, very long time to pay off.
Yeah, it's even in a 128-page script.
Yeah, and so she then visits Will in his hole-in-the-wall workstation to tell him that she's introduced the mDNA theory to the rest of the team. And he mentioned...
How many people do you have working on it? 7? That's not enough. Jesus Christ. The ego on the guy as well. That's not enough. Well, you're just a lab assistant. You're throwing these ideas at me.
They're looking at the definite extinction of the human race, and they have fewer people working on this than they do on COVID.
Yeah. It's one lab in one building rather than... Yeah, Jesus Christ.
And he mentions they did undergrad work at Princeton on a scholarship. And then Diamond talks about her baby going she got pregnant from a sperm sample because she didn't want to wait to find the right guy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, not because she didn't want to wait to find the right guy. She felt that he may have missed the right guy because she was like 33, 34. I've missed the right guy. It's yeah, you probably haven't.
Yeah, you're not an old maid. You're only 30.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Although in Hollywood, she, mid-30s probably would make her an old maid.
Well, yeah. And so, he's specifically unhappy about the fact that his theory specifically is only getting 7 test subjects.
Yeah.
He's like, I know this is some mutation. It's been lurking there for 100,000 years at the least. And Diamond asks him why he's so committed to this, but he evades the question.
Yeah. Obviously evades, as it says in the script.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's not subtle.
No.
Arnold hasn't been subtle since Conan.
No. Yeah, kindergarten cop Arnie says, quiet! I'm correct.
This could be a kindergarten cop sequel. He's saving all the children again.
He is, yeah.
And so while the NASA people set up geodesic domes outside the building, Diamond talks to a colleague whose name I wrote down, but it's not important, and has her pull up Will's employee files. And they discover that his background sheet is missing. Just before
must have got mislaid, yeah.
All you have to do is put it in alphabetical order. I'm going all over the shop with my references. I'm sorry.
I think we both kind of are technically, so...
And it's missing just before Diamond's secretary calls to tell her that the truth is leaked, and so there's a big shitstorm happening in the world.
Oh yeah, Washington's secrecy has failed again, sort of thing.
Yeah, and so Will soon has a caretaker let him into the psychology department's basement, where he finds 2 old sensory deprivation tanks.
Yeah.
So, Altered States 2.
Yeah, maybe they've got William Hurt as the president.
That's actually a script that exists, Altered States, the sequel.
Seriously?
Wow. From, I think it's the writer of, is it the guy who went on to write Number 23? I think it is.
Wow.
And so he tries one out, then asks for a key, as well as for the caretaker to keep things quiet. And this caretaker only exists to be like the guy Will talks to explain shit to the audience.
Yeah. Nobody listens to the old guy, so the old wizened guy who's seen everything.
And so Diamond and her team of researchers soon find a few old papers and journals about the MDNA issue, all written by a Dr. Robert Plant.
Hey, mama said the
Yes.
way you move, wanna make you sweat, wanna make you groove.
Yeah, there's a bit of a communication breakdown. Who was something...
it's what is and what should never be.
Yeah, what should never be is this reference. But who is something of a prodigy, getting his PhD at 24. It also turns out that he did undergrad work at Princeton
Dun, dun, dun.
on a scholarship.
Dun, dun, dun.
And Diamond soon spots Will heading for an elevator with a cart full of equipment, but the door slams. The door is closed before she can get there.
Yeah, it's that classic, a few seconds earlier and she could have put her hand through to stop the door thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That great cliche.
As opposed to the other elevator cliche where it takes your arm off.
Yeah.
And she confers with a security officer who says Will has pilfered equipment from 3 different labs, including genetic material. And they've looked around for him, but he's not in any of the buildings the team is using, and he isn't at home, having asked his landlady to look after his cat.
Yeah. Except the cat was just there, just for that one bit, and then suddenly, we don't need to worry about other animals anymore. Or maybe later. Yeah,
it's like, and that's going to be one thing about, like, what does he expect to go on in the future after he the fucking time loop in this is brain breaking if you think about it.
Yeah, it's like, my brain cells have died.
Yeah, and Will, as he explains to the caretaker, uses a computer simulation to locate the mutation in the mDNA and pinpoint the time it took place, figuring it to be about 102,000 years ago. As this is happening, Diamond goes through more of Will's articles on his theory, which includes pictures of him with 3 other researchers, including a woman he has his arm around. Seriously, this is the last time this gets mentioned until, like, 15 pages from the end?
Yeah, 30 to 15 pages from the end, yeah. Like they expect people to remember this photo.
And Will then runs another simulation, this time of the geography, etc., of prehistoric Africa where mankind began, before thanking the caretaker for his help. Diamond gets a call from UC Berkeley's archives and then gets together with some scientists and the campus security to help find Will, stating that she thinks his plan is to unlock mDNA to travel back in time and prevent the plague mutation from occurring. So, 12 monkeys?
12 monkeys, yeah.
Kind of.
Maybe Brad Pitt would have been the younger, cocky, arrogant scientist. But they would have had him acting normal because, the director would have allowed him to smoke his cigarette.
As Diamond and the others pinpoint his location, Will uses an IV to inject the chemical key he's put together into his bloodstream, and then climbs into the tank, where his body seems to begin to dissolve into the fluid, and Diamond is too late to stop him and stops the security head from opening the tank and potentially killing him. And she finds a note asking her to tell everyone that if it works out, Dr. Robert Plant is the one who saved humanity. And back with Will, he follows a vision. But if he changes the past, wouldn't this future not exist anymore?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, once I got to the end, I had the same thought. Wait a minute, nobody's gonna know. Yeah. Also, go back to this, like him melting in, into the the liquid and all that in the sensory deprivation. Visually, it could have been an intriguing little sequence, but when you think of the state of CGI or that kind of thing back in in '94, mid '94 when this script was done, it could have looked so bad. Visually, yeah, you can see where the idea is, but with the state of CGI at the time, we would have got Gary Oldman's Spider.
Oh.
Or even worse, Blah.
Oh, what?
The space monkey in Lost in Space.
Oh.
Oh, Blah.
I was thinking it could have looked like a worse version of the things turning invisible in Hollow Man.
Yeah. That's probably what it would have actually looked like.
Those effects that were so good, they recycled them in the sequel.
Save the money.
But so, back with Will, he follows a vision of a DNA molecule, which leads into this weird kind of like 2001 Stargate sequence, or that weird time travel scene in Star Trek 4.
Yeah, or it could have when in Darkman when he gets angry and all the stuff breaks around him. See, this could have been you could picture Sam Raimi directing this bit with like weird visuals and nightmare, almost like nightmare science fiction-y sequences as he sees everything as he travels back.
Yep, and so before he wakes up in the fetal position and bleeding from the nose and ears in prehistoric Africa 102,000 years ago, like the Great Rift Valley is right there, basically. And
yeah,
the thing about the time travel in this is that I can actually follow the pseudoscience to a degree, and that I can see what they're getting at here, because it's not explained really in the script, but mitochondrial DNA is the DNA that we have from our earliest female ancestor. And so the idea of following it back in time has a certain twisted logic to it.
Concept is kind of sound. You could see they had a decent through line to go, yeah, this will actually make sense to some people.
The cocaine people.
The cocaine people. The Colombians would have had this down pat.
And so he steps out of the cave, follows a plume of smoke to a clearing where an early human hunting party has been massacred. And they're like the very ape-like humans with like the furrowed brow and the...
This is very sort of almost Neanderthal-esque
sort
of thing. But don't forget, when he first comes out of the cave, he spots early, bigger Kilimanjaro.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it later because it gets brought up again.
Yeah, it does. It does get brought up, but it says like he sees it, and yeah, it does get brought up again.
But no, he finds them. They've been massacred. He just loots the corpses, takes what he needs, which is spears, an otter skin water bag, and an animal skin bedroll, and sets off. Sets off into the jungle, only to get caught in a net trap, a la Return of the Jedi. I actually wrote that in my note.
And this is literally within half a page of him grabbing the stuff from the corpses, and he loses almost all of it.
Yeah, and the early humans who set the trap, the tribe of the tiger, take him to their leader, Kip Kana, who seems to speak English. Yeah, they all speak English.
Yeah, but it's English, but they sort of like speak it sort of most low guttural, but it's still clearly English where we won't need subtitles.
And the apes still speak English too.
Yeah, they'd all be Royal Shakespeare Company English, the apes would be.
And so he sees the loot Will has taken from dead tribesmen and orders him killed, but they're interrupted by an attack by horse-mounted apes led by Gorilla General Drac, who is the only ape where they specify what kind of ape he is.
It's true. Yeah, I've just realized. Yeah, he is. It's the only one specified as a gorilla.
Yeah, and he says he has eyes like piss holes in the snow. So, yeah, I've seen Get Carter too, Hayes.
Yeah. Again, another random reference in this script.
Yeah, and so we get this big kind of battle hunting scene where Drac kills a pair of kids with a primitive projectile gun despite Will's efforts to help. And he calls in 3 steam-powered machines, the Claw, the Balls, and the Flame.
Yeah. Yeah, you think they would have possibly renamed those in later drafts, but you know.
The Claw.
The Claw.
And with the ball, there's actually a scene at one point where it describes the character running beneath the balls, and I'm just getting flashbacks to Transformers 2.
Exactly. I'm directly beneath the ape's throat.
And so Kip and his men see these things coming. So basically, it's like kind of like a backhoe wrecking balls and a giant flamethrower.
Yeah.
And Kip, they see these coming. They flee into a nearby cave, which they begin to close off of a stockade made of tree logs. And Will, despite being wounded in the shoulder with an arrow, manages to leap inside the closing doors just in time. And
of course he is. It's Arnie. Of course he's going to make it through just in time with his rippling muscles.
Yeah. And so the machine soon busts down the stockade, even as the tribe unleashes a saber-toothed tiger that wreaks havoc on the apes. I forgot that was in this.
Yeah, that's what I was referencing about the animals earlier. It's like, it even specifies it's like 3 times the size of its Bengal cousin. It just like rips through, like out of the cave, ripping through apes who are terrified and running from it. And ripping apart armor, and then as soon as it's out of the cave, it buggers off.
Yeah, and then they bring in the flame, and it eventually just runs off into the forest and goes, I'm not fucking around with these things. And then the apes, they bring the flame in, and they start lighting humans on fire. So
there we go.
I'll give it this. The action scenes are impressive and ambitious.
They are. It would have got at least a 12A.
Oh, this totally would have gotten an R rating. Like, they go to
Yeah.
like fucking brutal places in this. And Will manages to steal one of the apes' horses and takes Kip with him in an escape attempt.
Oh yeah, saves his life even though the guy was about to like kill him.
Yeah.
Have a go.
And Drac catches up by swinging through the trees and slamming into Will, who gets captured and knocked out with an armored fist as Kip rides away. And they're like, well, yeah, he's not going to win this fist fight. This is a gorilla after all. And I'm like, gorillas are really non-violent animals.
No. Well, no, yeah, they're powerful, but they are non-violent. But Will even tells Kip to run, go, get to the chopper.
Yeah, basically. This whole image of this scene ending with the ape literally going ape shit and just going through the woods, slamming into Arnold.
Stay away from my housekeeper.
I'm like, could Stan Winston? Because Stan Winston was hired to work on this.
Yeah.
I'm like, could he have possibly made enough makeup to make these scenes work?
I think he could have, especially when you consider the design of Pumpkinhead.
Oh yeah, Pumpkinhead's cool. But he stuck around through like the next 3 or so iterations.
Oh yeah, he moved on as the story changed and changed and changed.
Yeah. And Will soon comes to in a wagon as he's being taken into the colossal ape city over a bridge that spans a large river and ravine. He gets smacked with a whip when he speaks, and we go to a pool where Nazgul, yes, this is where it starts. President of the Ape Council of Elders is bathing with other old apes as Drac's troop enters the city, and they're like giving like dialogue that only exists for the audience, where they're like, humans have been hunted for generations and they're very scarce now. So basically the idea is that humanity almost didn't make it.
They're pretty much being wiped out as a whole. Maybe they're not even scarce enough. It's like, everyone nods and agrees. Yes. Ethnic cleansing, yes.
And we are then introduced to Magog, the high priest of the apes, who's basically the Zeus of this, kind of.
An angry, one-eyed Zeus.
Yeah, as he officiates at a funeral where the deceased is sent over a waterfall in a boat. So, Lord of the Rings reference number 2.
Yeah.
Then
I've gone with you to the end.
And presumably this ape would have been played by Sean Bean.
Yeah. or Sean Pertwee.
Yeah, and he hears the sounds of cheering, and we go to a street where the troop is passing as the citizens hang from ladders and watch. And there's like mention about how like the whole city is kind of built vertically. It's very difficult to picture.
It's very difficult to picture for early mid-90s Hollywood. But again, for me, the concept art would have been out of this world for it. And as I always say, stunning visually.
Yes. And so Will, unconscious again, draws a lot of attention for his unusual look compared to other primitive humans. And he is soon examined by Dr. Zora, who's basically an evil version of Zira from the other movies, and her assistant Ben Guri, whom, isn't that the name of an Israeli prime minister?
Yeah, it is. It is.
That's weird.
Again, the naming in this film is just like, I don't know. It's just, it's drug fueled. We're just going to pull names out of everywhere.
It's like they either pull names out of everywhere or they make up just weird names on the fly.
Yeah, what random syllables can you throw together? There you go, that's that guy's name.
But nope, they call in a vet to treat his wounds as Drac doesn't want his trophy dead yet.
I actually chuckled at that. It's get the vet. It's like, nice. I like that.
And the vet determines that he requires a blood transfusion, and they bring in a human prisoner named
Aragorn.
Lord of the Rings reference number 3.
It's number 3. Yeah, it's the Return of the King.
Kind of. To take the blood from. And it's like, it's this real fucked up primitive blood transfusion where they're basically sticking him with like a spike.
Yeah, again, it would have been wince-inducing on screen. And depending on how it was cut, anyway.
And so Nazgul and several other elders who arrive via a horse-powered elevator observe the transfusion process. And Will comes back into consciousness briefly to crack a joke about not having health insurance.
What is health insurance? Another religion?
Before he passes out again.
Yeah.
And the transfusion finishes, Magog arrives, and he recognizes something about Will and wants to have him killed immediately.
And then Zora's like, we've just spent an hour trying to keep him alive.
Yeah, her and Nazgul are like, we want to try and operate on his brain to, like, create a tame version of man for labor purposes. And Magog,
Man cannot be tamed, he's an animal.
That won't work. Cage him! And so the Council of Elders convene because he wants to talk about this.
Big talk.
And so Will is taken to a cell, and another human tunnels through the wall in what I guess is a reference to Count of Monte Cristo?
It is a reference to Count of Monte Cristo. This film is just, well, this script is just filled with so many.
And so it's Aragorn, who wanted to see if Will survived the transfusion. So is Aragorn just Richard Harris in your mind now?
Yeah, it's Richard Harris, yeah. It's Richard Harris and Jim Caviezel. You know, and Nazgul is going to be Michael Wincott. I was just trying to remember who else is in the film.
Guy Pearce.
Guy Pearce, yeah. And Zora would be the actress whose name nobody remembers.
Yep, and so it's like he mentions he's kept alive to draw other humans to his rescue as he is the Ranger of the Easterlings. Reference number 4.
Reference number 4, yes.
And leader of the 7 tribes. And he wears a silver crescent on his necklace, which he says is made of mithril. Reference number 6. Christopher Tolkien would have sued the shit out of these people.
Oh my god. He would have got like one of the big credits after like the screenplay by Terry Hayes. It would have been based on the stories of J.R.R. Tolkien.
Like what Harlan Ellison got on the Terminator, only more deserving.
Only more, definitely. Yeah, Christopher Tolkien would have become a producer, like Oliver Stone, Christopher Tolkien.
Yeah, and so Will asks if he can have it, saying he can help them escape with it. And we then go to the Temple of the Ape, where Magog shows the council the secret 177th scroll in the Book of Lore, which details how man is evil and doomed to bring about an apocalypse, and this convinces Nazgul to order Will's death.
And it is the Scroll of Revelation.
So, biblical reference. I think like the quote is actually like a modified Revelation verse.
It is, and of course it talks about like the secret scroll of Revelation has 7 seals on it that he breaks to open it, and he starts reading it, then closes it because he's got it memorized.
It's a sign, all right, going out of business. And this is the thing that doesn't make any sense about this is, okay, first off, where did these apes come from? Second of all, how do they have Bible quotes? Third of all, how do they know about the future of mankind when modern humans don't exist yet?
You do wonder if, say, if there'd been like this version had been made, they might have done a sequel or something. It would have been revealed
that they were from space.
From space, yeah. You know, Mark Wahlberg would have appeared and him slapped somebody. You know,
if you don't put me in your Planet of the Apes, I gotta be an Uncharted.
I got the touch.
Yeah, and it's just like, I don't know. It's basically just recycling something from the original movies, only that makes sense because it's in the future and humanity has destroyed itself. Here it's like, none of this has happened yet. And they don't seem technologically advanced enough to have come from space.
No, but you do wonder if that's possible. If that could have been the case, then would have been a technological dark age or something came upon them, and or it goes back to the whole, maybe it's a loop like the original series could have been. My brain cells are dying.
Yeah, I feel like Hayes is not. I feel like this is stuff that like Oliver Stone in those story conferences was like, you gotta put this in here. And Hayes is like, okay.
He's making the best of a bad situation, like William Gibson did with Walter Hill and David Giler.
There we go, David Giler. Okay, so Will manages to pick the lock using the silver I did not understand this, that he has to dangle it outside the lock to use this like a mirror to pick the lock?
I think because the way the cell's built and the way the apes have built the cage and where they put the lock, he needs the mirror to see how high up it is to angle the needle or the screw or whatever it is, because it's high up, because normally the apes would unlock it from above. So I think that's the point of it.
Yep. Again, it's weird.
It could have been, it's weird. It's an interesting take on the whole Prison Break style and all that.
Yeah, it's just it was hard to tell what was going on in the scene.
Yeah.
But they escape the cell just as Drac and 2 guards named Max and Hannibal come looking for them. And Aragorn karate chops Hannibal in the throat.
Judo chop.
That's a mental image for you. And ties bits of his and Will's clothing to his feet, which serves to draw off the wolves that Drac lets loose to sort of sniff them out.
Yeah. It pretty much goes into detail on how these 2 wolves rip apart this poor guy.
Yep. Which was almost the ending of one of the Apes movies, but they changed it to getting shot.
Wait, would that have been...
Escape.
Third one. Oh my god.
They would have gotten torn apart by police dogs at the end.
I'm kind of glad they went with everyone getting shot, which is an odd thing to actually say, but, you know.
But moving on, they move deeper into the passages with Aragorn saying he won't leave until he's done some killing, so it's like, he's a bloodthirsty asshole. Yeah. And they almost get jumped by an ape who is taking a piss in a crevice off the passageway.
Which I thought that was I actually found that really fun. That would have been a funny little bit on screen.
And but they're saved by an imprisoned ape named Strider who strangles the guard through the cell's bars.
Lord of the Rings reference number 7.
And there's still
who
more
has the witty one-liner of never turn your back on an ape.
And I guess he doesn't kill the guy.
No, I think he sort of like chokes him unconscious.
Yeah, because that's a plot point.
That whole, yeah, because it's the old plan, from the original series.
Ape shall never kill ape.
Yeah. But which I quite like. That's a nice sort of like reference of the series. It's one of the say a worthy reference to keep going through.
Yeah,
that was completely ignored in the Burton one. Where Tim Roth just like slaughtered anybody he wanted.
Yeah, and then jumped around like a doofus.
Yeah,
but so they
screeching like mad.
So Will grabs the keys off the guard and frees Strider, much to Aragorn's chagrin, which is a weird fucking sentence. Because they're the same character in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Spoilers, by the way, folks.
Oh, not really.
No, I know.
And they find 6 of the human patients that the apes have been working on, and all have had their brains operated on and made mindless. So it's like that scene in the original movie times 6.
Yeah.
It's these unfortunates that Aragorn has come to kill to put them out of their misery, including a little girl that they emphasize on. They don't say who she is yet. So that's some unexpected depths to the character.
I think it says that Will turns his eyes away and something about what, he understands it had to be done, but he still turns his eyes away or something.
Yeah. And Strider then has them cover their bodies in horse dung to throw off the wolves. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I had as well.
So we got Predator vibes, only with shit instead of mud.
Arnie's greatest shits.
and they make a break for it right as the sun enters a solar eclipse, and Will knew about this because that was how he pinpointed like the time and place.
Yeah, he knew it was coming. He's the only one who isn't afraid of the solar eclipse. Everybody else is like, shitting themselves.
Yeah, which is a commonly done scene in movies.
Yeah.
And they run out of the city, Apocalypto, for example. They run right out. They steal horses, ride over the bridge while everyone is distracted. And we then completely kill the momentum and go back to the present.
Yeah, it was a bit jarring. It was a bit jarring how it's written in the script.
And things have got...
Unless they would have done it as a fade to black with more of the eclipse or something.
Yeah, and so it's said things have gotten worse. It's been determined that the mutation sets in at 16 weeks of pregnancy, but they don't have enough time to unpack the mDNA before humanity goes extinct. And Diamond, who is 12 weeks pregnant, gets an ultrasound and learns. Yeah, she gets an ultrasound and learns she's having a boy.
A conversation with the boy.
And presumably the technician is played by Robert Englund going, "It's a boy."
Yeah.
And not seeing what harm it could do, Diamond repeats Will's procedure and gets into the flotation tank. It's like, that chemical... sorry, Billy Ray, that chemical key rendered your kid brain dead.
Yeah. This is after she's had a conversation with her team who were more haggard. The young arrogant guy is specified as less arrogant now, bags under his eyes. The old guy has just given up. It won't be in my lifetime.
And so she gets in the tank, and It's just weird that she's able to retrace his steps so readily. So and time still passes?
I think so, because it makes a reference to her reading his note. But if she'd read his notes, she technically should have traveled back to the same point he did. So technically, actually would have woken up next to him. And, oh my God.
Yeah. That goes for you all, too. But back in the Ape City, Zora approaches Drac with an idea that he then takes to Nazgul and the rest of the council. Patients have been brought in from a colony called Kismatu, which they say it's like far to the north, where women and babies are...
farthest colony to the north or something.
Where women and babies are dying, and the 5 patients are young children who appear prematurely aged. And Zora thinks it might be a virus and recommends using it against Will's new breed of humanity. So, time paradox number 5 or whatever.
Is it this technically count as a bootstrap paradox? Or... Oh God, oh my head, oh.
So what prompts them to, first off, injecting a virus into someone isn't going to make their fucking mDNA mutate, but, aside from that. So what gives them the idea to infect all of humanity with this thing is Will coming back in time to stop this mutation from happening.
Yep.
Oh, dear God.
Well, it's Terminator logic.
Yeah.
Going back in time to stop something from happening, but because you're going back in time to stop something happening, it's causing it to actually happen. And I don't have enough paracetamol for this.
Well, you see, the difference is that Terminator, the first movie, and the first 2 movies to differing extents, are simple to follow.
Yeah, very simple to follow. And again, as said in previous appearances on the podcast, the Terminator sex scene is probably the only one of the few sex scenes that's actually important to the plot.
Yep. Yeah, it's simple to follow the first 2 movies unless you're whoever wrote the entry on T2 in the 1001 movies you must see before you die, who thinks that Michael Biehn was playing John Connor in the first movie.
Yeah, they were not adapting Oedipus Rex.
or the Ridley Scott version of Dune.
Oh yeah, oh God, yeah, I've forgotten about that product point. Oh, you sick motherfucker!
And that
he obviously had Oliver Stone's cocaine in his cigar.
Yes. Yeah, he got contact high off of that test audience for Legend, and it didn't shake off. Okay, so that night the escapees camp out next to a rock formation. And Strider tells Will not to judge Aragorn too harshly, as one of the people he mercy killed was his own daughter. I will say, I actually really like Aragorn and Strider as characters, aside from the stupid names.
Yeah, you would have hoped in, say, a second draft, they would have just changed the names, but kept that point. Kept like the character beats and those bits going, yeah.
Like, I could even deal with Strider being called Strider if it wasn't for all the other Lord of the Rings references.
Yeah. If it was like one of maybe 2 references in there, because I can't even remember if Nazgul is actually named. I know he's named in the script, but I don't know if any of the characters actually.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
Same with Magog as well.
Yeah. And they continue to talk about what the apes have done to the humans. And Strider mentions that his sister's mate works in the labs and told him about the disease. So a helpful in-law, which clues Will into how the mutation arose. Total plot convenience.
Oh yeah, Strider is Basil exposition at this moment. And at this point, of course, Aragorn's off to the side. He's kept his distance from the 2 of them. He's off staring at the stars.
Yeah, he's staring off into the distance like he's Brad Pitt in like that tacked on scene at the end of 7.
Yeah. Oh, he's staring off like the stars and the mountains in the distance. The mountains are important.
And then Strider reveals that he was locked up for accidentally killing another ape, and that as punished... Yeah, he got jumped or something, and then he fought back and accidentally killed the guy. And as punishment, he will be denied funerary rites, and his soul won't continue on until the next world. He won't get to ride over the waterfall.
A fall of no return.
Yeah.
Which is a bit on the nose, to be fair.
And Will tells Strider about how his civilization will pass away, not even to be remembered in history.
And it's all like, oh, vanity of the apes, and it's like, of man as well. Oh, maybe we are more than, it's this whole like, we are more alike than we realize.
Yeah, and that's another thing. How the fuck did this massive city not leave something behind?
Yeah.
Or is it just
even,
or is it
even
like
after like 100,000 years or something?
Yeah, until Tim Curry finds it and finds their descendants.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah, with his random Romanian accent.
The diamonds are here. What's funny is that nobody is gonna know what I'm talking about.
Please put down my sesame cake.
God, that actor got cast in something recently, and the only thing I could think of was that line. But moving on. And so the next day, the ape cavalry sets out in pursuit. So it gets kind of Butch and Sundance at this point. While the three fugitives arrive at the cave of the Rainbow Tribe, because there's like a waterfall nearby that makes a rainbow.
It does say in the script that like they appear like near a waterfall, and the way the water hits on the rocks, it creates like rainbow colors and all that. So yeah.
Yep, and so the tribe isn't there though, and Aragorn says that they must have left some sign, and as they look for it, they run into Diamond, who almost kills Strider with a crossbow, which, where did she get that?
Yeah, and Will saves Strider by diving in front of him, wearing a suit of ape armor that is suddenly there.
Yeah, I guess he stole it off of one of the other apes.
It might have been what they were wearing when they were riding the horses when they escaped the ape city.
Yeah, he's wearing chainmail.
Yeah.
And Aragorn... Just
for this moment, by the way. Just for this moment.
Yeah, it never comes up again. Aragorn soon finds the signs and interprets them. The tribes have been called to a meeting place called the Eagle's Nest, which is 2 days' travel from there.
Yeah.
And they also mentioned that there's like a secondary exit to the cave in like the ceiling. And it gets brought up like one more time, and I have no idea why that's significant.
No, I don't think it, unless it was a story point that he forgot to carry on in this draft,
or if
he would have.
The idea was that that's the way the tribe went out to get to the Eagle's Nest.
Could have been, yeah, like.
But I mean, it's
secret like scent hiding route.
Yeah, and what's weird is that this kind of comes back in the Sam Hamm draft. Because there's the humans living in a cave, and they have like an escape exit on the roof, but like the apes know about it and they block it off. Of all the things to carry over.
Yeah.
A little bit more actually carries over than that, but I'll talk about that when we get done with this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so while the other two sleep, Will gets Diamond up to speed about the situation, and he mentions that these apes are only known to modern science by 17 bones or skulls that have outlasted the entire civilization.
I wasn't sure if he was talking about the apes or if he was on about Aragorn's people. I thought he was on about the human tribes.
No, he talks about Strider, I think.
That's probably where I got confused, because of course, same character in Lord of the Rings. That's probably where I got confused.
Yeah, so there was some trace left over, but I think there would have been a little bit more left over. And I know the jungle will like destroy fucking anything. If it
was a swallowed it up, so it would have still been there. Yeah, especially great ape city over a big ass waterfall.
And Will also tells her about the disease, speculating that they'll give it to the tribes and infect the first modern human, presumably a woman due to the MDMA connection, causing the mutation to take hold and express itself 102,000 years later, which once again, that's not really how that works.
No, but it's the only way they could write it and make it sense, because obviously the ape's plan is for it to be instant, but something goes wrong.
And the apes don't have the wherewithal to manipulate DNA.
No, it's literally just it almost like the way it's always described, they were just going to like take a blood sample and then spike somebody with it. And that's all they're going to do.
And Diamond tells Will about the 4-week deadline, and Will almost despairs before she snaps him out of it. I swear there's like 3 or 4 different scenes of one or the other of them despairing.
Oh yeah, we don't have enough time. We need to do this. We can't do this. We've got to go here. It's like, woe is me. Oh God. This is why this script is like 15 pages longer than it needs to be.
Yeah, and she also wants to ditch Strider and Aragorn, but Will insists they won't survive without them, and this comes up once. I don't think this ever comes up again, but Strider apparently has, like, psychic powers and can sense the ape people coming?
I think it's like, it's sort of like a link most apes have, or he can sense the coming of the armies, like he can, does it say in the script, he can feel the hoofbeats in head?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. But again, maybe that, like, the hole in the ceiling in the cave, that would have been cleared up in another draft.
Yeah, and so Drac and his trackers soon arrive at the Cave of Rainbows, which their quarry has since vacated, and they do determine from the tracks that they've been joined by a woman, and they find that other exit from the cave, and it's like, why is that important?
Yeah.
And we then go to our group of 4 as they approach the Eagle's Nest, not the Nazi Eagle's Nest, or the Eagle's Nest from that one Ghost Rider script, where the Eagle tribe lives in caves high on a cliff, connected by ladders with a primitive drawbridge at the entrance. And they are welcomed by the 7 tribes, even if Aragorn has to tell them to treat Strider as a friend. And Kip is there, and happy to see Will, being grateful for how the stranger saved his life.
He hugs Aragorn first, as Aragorn is
The Mac Daddy.
The Mac Daddy, he's that guy. He's the dude, Don't know why I said he's the dude. I suddenly just had a picture of him being played by Jeff Bridges.
That would actually be amazing.
Your opinion, man.
That would actually be kind of amazing.
There we go. We've cast this film. We're sorted.
But with his Rooster Cogburn voice.
Yeah, that would work as well, yeah.
But okay, so Will asks Kip if he's seen a woman who looks like him, but, Will is so ugly to them that another woman like him would have caused a great deal of talk.
Yeah. They all think you're ugly, and he's like, I'm ugly?
And
his pride is wounded.
There's an outside possibility that she lives among the Antelope tribe, who live far to the west and still haven't arrived for the gathering.
Yeah, they're like a few days late or something.
Although they all apparently live in the valley, so...
Yeah, it must be a big-ass valley.
Yeah, and they also haven't been seen in many years, so the apes may have wiped them out. And the tribes, except for that one, gather for a meeting, and they learn that apart from the apes that have followed the 4 of them to the city, there are 5 squadrons led by Nazgul approaching from the north.
I wonder if he was meant to write 9.
Yeah.
By mistake.
9 rings for the Ape Kings, doomed to die. But Aragorn asks if the tribes wish to flee or fight, and they reply that they'll do what the ranger tells them. In turn, he says he can no longer be a ranger, as he feels the part of him died when he killed his daughter. And
he did his duty, so he can't lead,
And he passes the crescent to Kip, and says that whatever decision is made, he'll fight. And the tribes decide to fight, and Will meets with Diamond and Strider to discuss this. And Diamond wants to leave and keep looking for the woman they need to find, but Will says they can help defeat the apes.
If they defeat the apes and almost wipe them out, then they won't need to find the girl or the woman or whoever they need.
Yeah,
they could end it right there and then.
Yep, and he points out that the caves are covered in saltpeter and that wood can be made into charcoal to make gunpowder to give humans the edge. And Diamond is like, human always want to fight wars.
And suddenly there's a smell of sulfur in the air. See, we can make all this. Yeah.
And they argue about it, and it's like not interesting at all.
It's another woe is me bit.
Yep, and so Will then demonstrates the power of gunpowder before the tribes by using it to destroy some scarecrows. And the humans look on in awe, but Scarecrow is another random reference to the original movie. But Strider is concerned about what this could mean. He then refuses to go to war with his own people because, consciously killing another one of his own kind would be different, and he can't do that.
Yeah,
and
that's right, yeah. Doing it by accident was one thing, but purposely doing it, he can't do it.
Yeah, and Will's very understanding of that. And soon, Drax's trackers and Nazgul's army meet, and they move on towards the tribes. And they go to ford an area where 3 rivers converge, but Will and the tribesmen are hidden among the trees, camouflaged, so some Predator reference there.
Yeah.
And set off several gunpowder fuses that cause massive explosions where the apes are crossing. And there's a huge fucking battle scene that goes on for a while. I kind of glossed over a lot of it in my notes, but it's brutal.
People are like blown apart, ridden with arrows. One guy gets his head caved in by a horse.
Yeah, it's a lot of shit going on.
Oh, and and there's a lot of stuff going on, and yeah, like apes are being wiped out first, then the tide turns, so humans are being wiped out, then the tide turns again, then the tide turns. There's a lot of back and forth with both sides being on top at various points.
Yep, and so Aragorn's spearing apes, fucking explosive crossbows are getting shot off, but basically they start getting overwhelmed by the sheer number of apes.
Yeah.
And a bunch of warriors are crowded onto a platform over the water, and Will notices the two apes have dumped oil from upriver and are planning to light it. Will shoots one with a crossbow, but Drac attacks him before he can get another shot off. Isn't Drac from Space Ghost?
Maybe.
And Will is forced to dive off a cliff into one of the rivers and disappears from sight. And
he sees the explosions going off as he's went downriver.
Yeah, and so we go back to the Eagle's Nest, where the Antelope tribe has finally arrived, and the men move off to fight in the battle, lowering the drawbridge as they leave.
Mm-hmm.
And amongst the women and children, Diamond spots one with light blonde hair and realizes that the woman they're looking for is still a girl. And her name is AIV, which is pronounced Eve. Funny. Ha ha. And her mother,
ow my nose.
Her mother tells her this, and he hopes that she has a son that could be a mate for her daughter because, she's be too ugly for any of us to want to fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that, Terry.
Yeah, and they then see dust gathering in the distance and realize that the ape cavalry is approaching, preceded by what remains of the antelope warriors who got fucking massacred in about 2 minutes flat.
They literally, they turned the corner and just got, bitch slapped completely.
And they rush to raise the drawbridge, but Drac manages to jump onto it with his horse at a gallop.
Yeah. It's the weak, it's the old, and it's the kids trying to pull it up, and they're close, but then, it's pretty much the villain doing what Arnie would have done earlier. Yeah, it's like he's learned from what Will had done.
Yeah, and Drac, everyone flees except for one teen who cuts Drac in half, and the drawbridge falls back down, and then the ape cavalry rides in. Diamond tries to get to Eve. The girl's mother is killed by a harpoon thrown by an ape named Greybeard. Diamond gets caught between him and Drac, only for Strider to pull her to safety. Drac captures Eve and drags her off on a chain along with other captives among the women and children.
Laughing evilly. Roars evilly or whatever.
As Diamond and Strider hide in the shadows. And Will soon emerges from the river and returns to the battlefield where the tribes have been thoroughly defeated. Kip is found dead with a spear through him. And this all makes Will doubt his choice to help them fight and blah-de-blah-de-blah. As told...
And they all sort of they barely acknowledge him as he walks through. He goes up to one who's Kip's wife. Who up until this point, it's not even really specified that he had a wife.
Yeah.
This whole thing. He gets down on his knees or something in front of her.
Yeah, surviving Lookout is hope is the cruelest thing you could have given us.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, kick him while he's down.
Yeah. And so Will and the Lookout, they make their way to the crossroads of the fallen king where their ancestors are buried. And the remaining tribesmen, including, Kip's wife who leapt from the eagle's nest and doesn't know what happened to anyone else there.
No.
And the remains of the tribes come to the decision, we're going to leave the valley, we're going to go beyond the Tower of the Moon and leave Middle-earth behind us for good. And they mentioned Middle-earth a couple times before this, but I didn't note it down.
No, but this is the
seventh reference?
7th or 8th reference, yeah. It's there. And it's but they believe they'll die out if they go beyond the valley because the totems can't follow, but they have to try and survive. Pretty much as long as they're committing ritual suicide at this point.
So they come to... I thought they were going to do something clever and go this is why humans left Africa. But no, they don't do that.
No, exactly. That's what I thought as well. It's
And so Will makes a small boat in mourning for Diamond, so it's like those boats in Dear Esther, and lets it float down the river, where it's found by Diamond and Strider, who are soon reunited with Will. So what's the point of that scene?
Yeah, and so it's and he goes, Will! It's he looks up and she comes around the corner and they embrace, and it's all beautiful. It would have been swelling of the orchestra,
Yep, and so Diamond tells Will about Eve and how she's being marched back to the city with the other captives. And the tribes tell them their decision to leave. They can come what they want, but Strider can't. And Will says, we're going to stick with our boy here. And Diamond is like, I want...
Strider tells him, no, go with them. He's like, nah, you're my bro. I go with you.
Yeah, and Diamond doesn't want to go because she wants to go find Eve. And Will is like, no, we can't get back into the city. Oh, I'm despairing again. And like, we can't save your baby.
There is a way in.
Yeah.
That I didn't tell you about earlier.
Yeah, and Strider's like, yeah, we can get to Funeral Rock, which is at the bottom of the temple, but we need to cross the river. And then Will lights up again, having figured out a plan. And so they make their way over the city, past the bridge. Strider points out that the furnaces have been lit, which are used to burn the bodies of prisoners after they have been killed for sport.
There's obviously gladiatorial events going on. So
which kind of is what kind of was in the Rifkin draft as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they do is Will takes a bow, ties a rope made from vines to an arrow, and shoots it across to make a crude bridge.
Yeah.
Huh?
As Predator.
Yeah. As the three of them cross, it begins to fray. Diamond starts to panic, and I'm like, why didn't you go across one at a time? But
yeah.
Will reminds her of the baby, and that kind of galvanizes her. She makes it across. And the rope continues to break down as Will and Strider are still crossing. And Strider is willing to let go to save Will, saying he at least made it to the river. Yeah. And before Will...
Strider is the one who's spotted. Not the humans aren't spotted. Strider is spotted.
Yeah, Strider gets spotted.
Like a noob.
Yeah, and so before Will lets him go, he asks what the sacred words are, which turns out to be like a weird mashup of the beginning of Genesis and the 23rd Psalm.
Yeah, and the Lord's Prayer, there's a bit in there as well, and
it's basically everything a not religious person would know about Christianity.
Yeah, it's like, you know the sacred word.
He's
like, Strider disappears over the falls with a smile on his face, knowing he'll be in the
afterlife.
Yeah, the afterlife, the halls of the fallen or whatever.
That's a good moment.
It is actually, yeah. Even reading it tugs at the heartstrings a little bit, and it's like, that could work.
Like, Strider's a really good character in a not good script.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, and so Strider falls to his death. The commotion attracts the guards on the bridge, and led by Drac, they fire on Will, getting an arrow through his torso as he climbs up to the shore and makes it to Diamond.
Oh no, not his rip.
Yeah, and so the tribes, they get found by Aragorn, who managed to get away with a dozen other people. He says he plans to attack the Ape City alone to get his revenge, but then they're like, we'll all come with you, including the women who want to join the fight this time.
Oh yeah, it's like, women can't fight. Women haven't been allowed to fight. Ooh, misogyny.
And the lookout then presents Aragorn with the crescent, which he found on the battlefield, and they march off to war once more. And let's go back to the riverbank. Diamond has dressed Will's wound as best she can, and she wants to continue on alone. And Will gives this heartfelt speech about how he let his fiancée and another colleague get into the flotation tanks before, but they died due to a miscalculation. And his name...
They dissolved to crap.
Yeah, his name was dragged through the mud, and he changed his name to get more work. He's like, Will Robinson, because you were lost in space, right? Ha ha ha.
Ha 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 ha. Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, and yeah, way after any of this stuff was relevant, we finally get his backstory. We were like 13 pages from the end.
Yeah.
And Will is like...
I really wanted you to remember the photo from age 10 of this script.
Yep, and Will now views Diamond as his second chance, and she helps him along, so now they suddenly have a thing together.
And this, they've just suddenly thrown it.
There's a weird cutaway to the tribes crossing a gorge on flying squirrels.
What, flying foxes?
Yeah.
They're referred to as flying foxes.
So, like, the fruit bat?
Possibly, yeah. It must be like like with the big-ass saber-toothed tiger earlier, they're obviously going to be bigger versions 100,000 years ago.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, my head, it hurt again.
Yep, and so we go back to Will and Diamond, who are climbing over the Funeral Rock and heading into the temple, and he stumbles maybe once or twice, but he fucking tanks that arrow wound.
Oh, yeah.
And we are then shown a teenage ape taking part in the manhood ceremony, where his forehead is cut before he gets to fight a 12-year-old boy taken from among the prisoners. So some world building there. And we go to Zora, who extracts some blood from one of the aged ape babies, which is to be used on Eve, who is being prepared for the process by the vet. And The idea of an evil Zira is interesting, but she does fuck all in this.
It's like, this is like a fourth appearance in the whole script. And it's
Yeah.
just like, it's a waste of a character.
And they are soon attacked by Will and Diamond, who kill the vet and save Eve.
Yeah.
And Drac finds a guard that Will and Diamond must have, knocked out. Because his body's like at the bottom of like a well, and sets off an alarm throughout the city, which distracts the teen ape long enough for the 12-year-old boy to kill him with a spear to the balls.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. And
that is chuckled in, like, and the teenage ape collapses on top of the boy.
It's like friggin' Big Trouble in Little China, where that guard gets collapsed on top of Kurt Russell.
Yes, that's what I thought as well. Feeling kind of invincible.
And so Will asks Diamond, knowing that the apes are on alert, he asks her if she can ride and sends her to the stables where because the humans are kept in like modified horse stables.
Yeah.
Says her to rescue them, saying he'll meet her at the eagle's nest, and he in turn goes to distract the apes by stealing the flame, burning Nazgul and a lot of the other apes on the primitive elevators. So
yeah, Nazgul, Drac, and Magog are sort of like baked up during the script, and Nazgul goes out like a little bit.
Yeah, and this is batshit insane. You've got Arnold driving around on something that beats even the fucking tank from Army of Darkness.
But yeah, again, this is like a modified tank, and he's just driving around. It's like, because like Nazgul was like, "Why does Drac need the flame?" And then it's like, "Oh shit, roasted monkey."
But yeah, Diamond frees the tribesmen and tells them to arm themselves. And she then steals a horse and rides off on it with Eve in tow. And we see the 12-year-old boy's mother find her son still alive. So thank God this nameless character is okay. Before going back to Will, who continues to wreak havoc with the flame, but it runs out of fuel just before he can roast Drac. And he scrambles around outside the machine for a while before it crashes right through a house. Diamond gets surrounded by apes, but is saved at the last second by Aragorn and the human army and rides off again.
Suddenly, Diamond is a champion show jumper.
She's
riding this horse.
Your wild hearts can't be broken.
Yeah, no. There was no reference to her being interested in horses at all in the script earlier at all. They could have mentioned, "Oh, I loved horse riding when I was a little girl." They could have done something like that. No, it's just suddenly, she's an Olympic gold medalist ready for dressage.
And so Aragorn corners Magog and some guards on a terrace and kills them, so there goes Magog. But in turn is killed by Drac and his harpoon gun.
Yeah.
Drac then spots Diamond and Eve escaping on horseback and chases after them, Will following. And honestly, a pretty good chase action scene.
It could have been interesting if they could have pulled it off on screen.
Yeah. And Will has to climb down the balls to the claw, which he ends up using to grab Drac and crush him into halves, which makes the apes just give the fuck up.
Oh, he doesn't just crush him. Drac gets twisted and crushed.
Ooh.
It's literally described as he's twisted and crushed. And as Will sprouts the line, "Get your hands off me, you dirty ape."
Oh, I forgot to note that down.
Yeah, and then, of course, Drac's legs fall from the sky. And it's described as almost as if they're kicking in air, and the other apes just like panic, as like they shit themselves and like scatter at like what Will has done to their great warrior.
Yep, and so the apes just give the fuck up. Will is reunited with Diamond and Eve, and finally tells her that, "Oh, by the way, I have no idea how to get back to the present."
That's the twist. Every Planet of the Apes film at that time needed a twist. So, like, oh yeah, by the way, we can't get back. Oh, twist.
Yeah. And she's like, "That's fine. I knew that. I came out of love." And then they kiss. And I'm like, no.
But then it's the whole bit. It's like, well, how will we know we succeeded? And it's, well, when your baby is born, we'll know.
Yep.
Or, it's that whole bit. And it's just,
like, we help them reclaim their valley, blah, blah, blah. And it's like,
while the ape city is burning around them.
Yeah. And they're like, it's like, it is the epitome of the man and the woman being on love because they're on screen together.
Yeah. That's it. That's what all like these, 90s films needed. It's like, they couldn't be platonic. It always had to be a love interest sort of thing,
Yep, so I guess she finally found the right man several months after she cucked him with a sperm sample.
Pretty much, yeah.
And so it just hard cuts to 9 months later. We don't find out anything about the tribes, anything about the apes.
Nope.
And Will is building something on a beach, and Diamond's in a nearby cave. She goes into labor, and Will helps her through, and the baby turns out to be a healthy boy. Now, I could have sworn, I think every write-up on this says that the baby is named Adam, because Adam and Eve, haha.
Yeah.
But that's not in here.
It's not named in this. The baby's not named in this draft.
So I'll give them credit for that.
Yeah.
And so the four of them,
the whole religious sort of stuff, but yeah, they don't need to keep doing it so on.
Yeah, and so the four of them, along with Eve, they emerge from the cave and look at the ocean before Diamond looks over at Will's sculpture, a recreation of the head and crown of the Statue of Liberty. He says, "I built this so we can always remember where we came from," and it ends. And it's not this script's fault, but all I can fucking think of is that crude Statue of Liberty that the Ben Stiller lion builds on the beach in Madagascar, and it turns into a Planet of the Apes reference.
Yeah.
Darn you all! You burned it up.
That's probably where Madagascar, where they got it from. They read the script and thought, we'll use that. We'll take up this.
Yeah, so this script, ambitious, has some interesting world building, some cool ideas, some cool action scenes, but it's just too much crazy packed into 127 pages.
Yeah. And budget for this, I think, was like $100 million.
It would have been ridiculous.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find it in the book. It says considerable budget.
Considerable budget, and I swear, what I've read, it was like Fox gave them a $100 million budget. Then once this version of the draft was handed in, Fox executives hated it.
Well, it seemed like they liked it for the most part.
Yeah, but then I think it might have been successive the next couple of drafts. They were like, nah, it's not moving on how we want to. So then,
well, this is what happened. Is there was an executive apparently Fox chairman Peter Chernin described Return of the Apes as one of the best scripts he ever read. But one of the more minor executives was a guy named Dylan Sellers, who wanted the script to have more comedy in it, and he very specifically wanted to have a scene where the apes are playing baseball, but a specific piece is missing. And then Will Robinson fixes it for them, and then they learn how to properly play baseball. And when Hayes turned in his next draft and that scene wasn't in it, Sellers had him fired. And then Philip Noyce walked over that, and that basically threw this whole thing into development hell again.
Yeah, this is what led to Ham taking over. But is that right?
Yeah, more or less.
The Cliff Notes version, essentially, yeah.
But Fox decided to take back the reins, and Don Murphy was like, Terry wrote a Terminator, and Fox wanted the Flintstones, which isn't really true if you read the Sam Ham script, but, well, I'll leave that for next episode.
Leave that for next.
And several events occurred in rapid succession. Stone went off to pursue projects of his own. Tom Rothman replaced Tom Jacobson as head of production. Ooh. Yeah. A drunken Dylan Sellers crashed his car, killing a much-loved colleague and earning himself jail time, and Murphy and Hampshire were paid off. And so from there, it moved over to Chris Columbus and the script written by Sam Ham, which will be the next episode. And I have to mention a little bit of that now, because the whole inciting incident of the aging plague with the babies, that carries over.
Yeah, so that's what the few bit, again, that's obviously the big thing from this script. They wanted to keep going. It was the only
and Schwarzenegger
couldn't think how to make it work otherwise.
And Schwarzenegger carried over as well. So, final thoughts on this thing before we call it a night?
Final thoughts. I did enjoy the script for its batshit craziness.
It's bad, but it's never boring.
No, exactly. When they're describing the action sequences, the battle scenes, all of that, you can vividly picture it in your mind. Even though if reading it now, you can picture it with today's budget and today's effects, you can still picture it really well.
Ironically, it would need the Lord of the Rings budget.
It would do. And again, that goes back to Peter Jackson. So,
who actually, they approached him as a director for this version before Philip Noyce.
Poor Philip Noyce, I bet, yeah.
Yeah, but he backed off because he knew Arnold was starring and that they were looking at James Cameron to be a producer, and he figured he didn't want to get caught up in that because he knew if he disagreed with one of them, they would back each other up.
Yeah. You don't want to get in the way of Hollywood buddies.
But no, this is like one of the best, like, what the fuck am I reading scripts I've covered on here in a long time.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Because there's so many, because, I mean, it felt like the early days of this show were just like Cameron Spider-Man, fucking Frank Miller's Year One, Pro 2037, and then it just seemed like those kind of would evaporate and they'd come back occasionally, but this kind of brings it back in full force, and I'm so happy.
Yeah, it does. I do love the odd... You do wonder how they would have made it work, maybe in like later drafts, how they would, but the weird religious aspect to it. The fact that, like, you know, maybe it's saying that, like, religion is universal, everything is linked and all that, and how the Apes Bible is very close to what humanity now has. But maybe that's why there are contradictions in humanity's Bible because of what we took from the apes, but we had to alter bit there. Maybe the apes version of the Bible was ape must not lay with man, not man can't lay with other man, you know, that whole thing.
Yeah.
The world, but there's a lot of world building there, which, you know, you could take so much out of there, and it intrigues me so much. It's just a shame that it's all contained within this absolutely back crazy script that would have been diluted as each successive draft would have gone on.
Yeah. Maybe like a third draft or fourth would have been good, but he never got to write a third draft, so.
No, which is unfortunate. Yeah, it's with a lot of, you know, with a lot of the scripts that, you know, I've talked about with you or many of the other guest hosts on these episodes, you know, on the various episodes I've talked about, there always seems to be like draft we talk about always seems to be, if there was one more, but it was like it was cut off just before that point, and you think, if only you just a little bit more time, just see if you got that script.
Like almost all the Alien 3 scripts have that.
Yeah, each version of the story, it was like, like Gibson's could have used one more draft. Maybe Vincent Ward's.
Towie's definitely.
Eric Reds, we can forget about that. Fuck that. You know, but yeah, Towie's definitely. A second draft of that would have been great. More of Ward's one, you know, with less of an android who loved bread.
Or that Larry Ferguson rewrite.
Wasn't that the one that was kind of like the seventh?
Yes, the one we don't have.
The one we don't have, and there's another one. I think there's a Rex Ferguson or something. I can't remember.
Rex Pickett.
Rex Pickett, that's the guy.
I've got that revision somewhere.
Got that. I think he did two. I think he did one himself, and then there was one where he had to rewrite. Third act of
Geiler,
you know, Geiler and Hill, you know, Geiler. God rest his soul, but fuck Geiler. Hashtag fuck Geiler. And all that. It's just like, it always seems to like, they get to the final hurdle and you think, one more hurdle, and they stumble.
And they stumble. Yeah.
And that's it. And they're disqualified. It's did not finish. And you think, if only. And read it, you know, go back this script, Return of the Apes, you think one or two more drafts and it would have been there. And it would have been filmable, and it could have been great. It could have been a massive, absolute box office bomb. It would have been a glorious box office bomb.
It would have been the Wonderworld of Apes movies.
Oh, God, yeah.
But, yeah.
It would have been Kevin Costner as Will Robinson.
That was an interesting read, and I'm glad we finally did, because this is an episode I've been thinking about for years.
Oh yeah, we've talked about this for a long time. It's not even wasn't originally amongst my list of ones I wanted to talk about, but it's, you know, the Planet of the Apes as a series is something that always is great just to talk about. Oh,
for sure, because it goes in so many weird directions. But
and you could take it in so many different directions, especially in regards to this script that we've had.
Yep. And, well, I think that about sums it up. So, until the next episode, which is the Sam Ham script, bye.
Bye, folks. Enjoy yourselves.